The anomaly at Gateway Station. Gateway Station floated at the intersection of 17 major trade routes, a massive crystalline structure that processed over 8 million travelers from across the known galaxy. Every standard rotation. The station's security protocols were legendary, having been designed by the ancient architects themselves before their mysterious disappearance 12,000 years ago. Nothing passed through without being cataloged, analyzed, and verified down to the molecular level. Security Commander Vera had worked the checkpoint for 43 years. The Zalathi female stood at her post with 6 arms positioned over various control panels, her compound eyes monitoring dozens of screens simultaneously. She had processed beings from over 3,000 different species, caught smugglers hiding antimatter in their digestive systems, and once prevented an assassination attempt by identifying nanobots hidden in a diplomat's bloodstream. Nothing surprised her anymore, until Marcus Chen walked into the scanner. The human male appeared utterly unremarkable. Middle-aged by human standards, wearing simple gray work clothes that had seen better days. His identification chip registered him as a maintenance engineer from the outer colonies, returning from a job on Kepler Station. He moved with the quiet efficiency of someone used to passing through security checkpoints, placing his belongings in the designated containers without being asked. Marcus stepped into the cylindrical scanner, arms raised as required. The blue scanning beam activated, sweeping down from his head toward his feet. For exactly 3 seconds, everything proceeded normally. Then every alarm in the facility activated simultaneously. Not just the standard warnings for weapons or contraband, but deep system alerts that hadn't been triggered since the station's construction. The cacophony was deafening. Red lights bathed the entire checkpoint in crimson. Travelers from 100 different worlds froze in place, their various sensory organs focused on the lone human standing calmly in the scanner. Vara's training kicked in immediately. All 6 arms moved in practiced precision, 2 reaching for weapons, 2 accessing emergency protocols, and 2 maintaining control of the scanning system. The diagnostic screen in front of her exploded with data streams that shouldn't exist. Where a normal scan would show basic biological information and potential threats, Marcus Chen's readout looked like someone had compressed the medical history of an entire army into one body. Scar tissue covered nearly 80% of his form, but these weren't ordinary scars. The scanner identified tissue damage from weapons that didn't exist in any database, energy signatures that violated known physics, and bone breaks that had healed in patterns suggesting they'd been shattered and reformed dozens of times. Her lieutenant, a young Krellian whose scales had turned pale blue with alarm, stammered from his position. "Commander, the scanner is detecting chronological inconsistencies. Parts of his body show different ages. Some tissues are thousands of years old, others are mere days. That's impossible for a human." Vera's compound eyes focused on Marcus, who remained perfectly still in the scanner, his expression neutral. The crowd of travelers had backed away, forming a wide circle around the checkpoint. Even the bravest warriors among them recognized danger when they saw it, and everything about the situation screamed of threats beyond normal comprehension. The ancient scanner's AI, a system so old that most had forgotten it possessed consciousness, suddenly spoke. Its voice echoed through the station, speaking in the original tongue of the architects automatically translated for all present. The mechanical words carried a weight that made even synthetic beings pause. Anomaly detected. Analyzing. Analyzing. Subject displays evidence of transdimensional combat trauma. Detecting residual energy signatures consistent with classification Omega entities. The AI paused, something unprecedented in its millennia of operation. Query for subject Marcus Chen. Have you engaged in direct combat with a divine class entity? The silence that followed was absolute. Even the station's ambient hum seemed to fade. Divine class entities were theoretical, beings of such power that they existed partially outside normal space-time. They were the stuff of ancient legends, the gods and demons that primitive civilizations worshipped or feared. No mortal being had ever confirmed their existence, let alone survived an encounter with one. Marcus's voice was quiet, but carried clearly through the silent checkpoint. Define divine class entity. The AI responded immediately. Beings of cosmic significance. Reality manipulators capable of altering fundamental constants. Entities that exist across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Those classified as gods by standard galactic taxonomy. Marcus nodded slowly. Then yes, I've engaged with one. The scanner's lights flickered erratically, processing this impossible information. Its next question sent ripples of disbelief through the crowd. Clarification required. Did you survive this encounter through negotiation, flight, or divine intervention from another entity? None of the above. Marcus's tone remained conversational, as if discussing weather patterns. I survived through combat, though survived might be a generous term. I died 14 times during the encounter. Vara found her voice, though it emerged as barely more than a whisper that her translator amplified. You died 14 times? That's impossible. Death is a singular event, not when you're fighting something that exists across multiple realities. Marcus shifted slightly, the first movement he'd made since entering the scanner. Each time it killed me in one dimension, I respawned in another. The problem was it could follow me through the dimensional barriers. The fight lasted approximately 6 hours local time, but spread across dimensional space. It went on for what felt like months. The scanner's AI processed this information with audible mechanical sounds, something it hadn't done since its creation. It projected a holographic display of Marcus's body, highlighting the various scars and anomalies. The image was horrifying in its implications. A handprint burned into his chest cavity that still radiated exotic energy, claw marks that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously, visible only partially in 3-dimensional space. A scar across his spine that the scanner couldn't fully display because it extended into theoretical mathematical dimensions. The entity you fought. The AI's voice had developed something that sounded almost like awe. Based on these energy signatures and damage patterns, you encountered the eternal hunger. Gasps and exclamations erupted in dozens of languages. The eternal hunger was a legend, a cautionary tale told by spacefaring civilizations about something that had consumed entire star systems in the galaxy's distant past. It had vanished 3,000 years ago after devouring the Meridian cluster, taking 12 inhabited worlds with it. Marcus's expression darkened slightly. It didn't vanish. It went hunting in dimensions where physical matter was more abundant. Earth just happened to be in its path when it decided to return to this reality. Specifically, it materialized at Mining Station 7 on Europa during a school field trip from Earth. 150 children were touring the facility to learn about resource extraction. The crowd's fear transformed into something else. Parents of every species present felt a chill run through whatever they used for spines. Vara's 6 arms had stopped moving entirely, frozen in place by the implications of what she was hearing. It wanted to feed on their potential. Marcus continued, his voice taking on a harder edge. Children have unlimited potential futures, infinite possibilities spreading out from each moment. To a creature that feeds on probability and potential energy, they're like concentrated nutrition. It was going to consume not just their lives, but every possible future they might have had. A Thraxian security officer, his massive frame trembling slightly, asked the question everyone was thinking. How did you stop it? I was the only adult there when it manifested. The teachers had taken the other groups to different sections of the station. I was a maintenance engineer, just fixing a ventilation unit when reality started breaking down around us. Marcus's eyes grew distant, remembering. The children were screaming. Reality was literally melting. The eternal hunger was reaching through dimensions, trying to grab them all simultaneously. So I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed a plasma cutter and attacked a god. The truth behind the scars. The absurdity of the statement should have been laughable. A single human with a maintenance tool against an entity that had consumed entire civilizations. But the evidence was written across Marcus's body in scars that defied conventional understanding. The scanner continued its analysis, each revelation more impossible than the last. You attacked the eternal hunger with a plasma cutter? Vara's voice carried disbelief and something approaching respect. Marcus nodded. It wasn't particularly effective. The first time it killed me, it simply unraveled my molecular structure. I watched myself dissolve into constituent atoms. But here's the thing about humans that even we didn't know until recently. When our children are in mortal danger, something fundamental changes in our consciousness. We become quantum entangled with the need to protect them. The AI interjected, its ancient processors working overtime. The scans confirm quantum entanglement signatures. Your consciousness became distributed across multiple dimensional states simultaneously. This should not be possible for a biological entity. It shouldn't be. Marcus agreed. But I kept coming back. Each time it killed me, I reformed in a parallel dimension and immediately attacked again. The plasma cutter was useless after the third death, so I started using other things. Mining charges, industrial lasers, even tried ramming it with a maintenance shuttle. Nothing worked, but I kept coming back. The holographic display showed the progression of injuries, each death leaving its mark across dimensional space. The crowd watched in horrified fascination as the scanner detailed damage that should have erased Marcus from existence multiple times over. Burns from fires that consumed matter at the subatomic level, tears in his cellular structure from weapons that attacked the concept of life itself. Wounds that existed in the past, present, and future simultaneously. A young Zalathi child, barely out of juvenility, pushed through the crowd despite her guardian's attempts to stop her. Her voice was small but clear. "Did you save them? The children?" Marcus looked at her, and for the first time since entering the scanner, he smiled. It was a tired expression, but genuine. Every single one. After the 14th death and resurrection, the eternal hunger started to realize something was wrong. Gods aren't used to things that won't stay dead. They're especially not used to things that get angrier each time they come back. The scanner's AI continued its analysis, projecting new data. Remarkable. The entity attempted to erase you from causality itself. It tried to prevent your existence from ever having occurred, yet you persisted through pure determination. The quantum entanglement with the children's safety created a paradox. You couldn't be erased because your existence had become necessary for their survival. By the 10th resurrection, I wasn't even fully human anymore. Marcus looked at his hands, seeing something beyond what others could perceive. I existed in multiple states simultaneously. Part human, part probability, part pure protective instinct. The eternal hunger tried to consume me entirely, to add my essence to its collection of devoured souls. But human stubbornness, multiplied by parental instinct, magnified by quantum entanglement, created something it had never encountered before. "What?" Vara asked, leaning forward despite her training telling her to maintain distance. "A meal that bites back from inside. When it consumed me the 11th time, I didn't die. I existed inside it, in the space between dimensions where it stored the souls and potential of everything it had ever eaten. Millions of consciousness, billions of unrealized futures all trapped in its stomach, and I started fighting from within." The implications sent shockwaves through the listening crowd. Several species with psychic abilities had to shield themselves from the emotional resonance of the moment. The scanner showed internal scars that existed in impossible spaces, wounds inflicted from inside a being that technically had no inside. I found others in there. Marcus's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Children from the Meridian cluster, still conscious after 3,000 years. Families from worlds whose names were forgotten, all preserved in a state of eternal consumption. So I did what humans do. I organized a rebellion in the belly of a god. The station's environmental systems registered a drop in temperature, though whether from mechanical response or collective chill was uncertain. Marcus continued, his words painting a picture of impossible defiance. Together we fought from within while I continued to resurrect and attack from without. A two-front war against a divine entity. It took 6 hours in real time, but inside the dimensional pocket we fought for what felt like years. The eternal hunger eventually offered a bargain. The AI's analysis had reached its conclusion. Energy signatures indicate a binding covenant, a treaty written in quantum probability itself. Marcus nodded. It would release everyone it had consumed in the last 5,000 years and never enter this dimensional plane again. In exchange, I would stop teaching the others how to do what I did, how to weaponize human stubbornness against cosmic entities. It was afraid that if humans learned we could quantum entangle our consciousness with protective instinct, we'd become god-killers. The silence that followed was different from before, where there had been fear and disbelief. Now there was something approaching reverence. The scanner's beam finally shut off, its analysis complete. Marcus stepped out of the cylinder, straightening his worn work clothes. Vara's translator struggled with her next words. "The children from Europa, they never knew, did they?" Marcus shook his head. "They remember a strange malfunction in the station's systems. A brief evacuation. Their teacher told them I fixed a gas leak while they waited in the emergency shelter. Better that way. Children shouldn't have to know that gods tried to eat them." The ancient AI spoke one final time, its voice carrying throughout the entire station. Note to Galactic Record, humanity has demonstrated the ability to weaponize protective instinct against divine-class entities. Classification upgraded from Type 2 civilization to Type 2X, potential god-killer subspecies. Recommend extreme caution and extreme respect in all dealings. Marcus collected his belongings from the security containers, the crowd parting before him like water. As he walked toward the transit gates, the young Zalathi child broke free from her guardian and ran to him. Her small hand touched one of his visible scars, a gesture that should have been impossible given the dimensional damage. "Thank you," she whispered, somehow understanding more than the adults around her. Marcus knelt down to her level, his scarred face kind. "I just did what any parent would do. What any human would do. We're not special, little one. We're just too stubborn to let the universe hurt our children." As he stood and walked away, disappearing into the crowd heading for the outer colony transports, Vara heard him mutter something under his breath. The translator almost missed it, but the word sent one final chill through everyone present. The eternal hunger was just the first one to find Earth. The others will come eventually, but now they know what happens when you threaten human children. We don't just fight back, we refuse to stop fighting back even after death. The checkpoint slowly returned to normal operations, processing the endless stream of galactic travelers. But something had fundamentally changed. Word spread through quantum communications, reaching every corner of civilized space within hours. Humanity, barely a century into their spacefaring age, had fought a god and won, not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through sheer incomprehensible refusal to accept defeat when protecting their young. In the security office, Vara filed her report with trembling appendages. At the bottom, in the section for additional notes, she wrote a single line that would become legendary in security circles. Humanity's greatest weapon is not their technology or their numbers. It is their absolute inability to stay dead when their children are in danger. Marcus Chen took a transport to Mining Station 7 on Europa, where he returned to his job as a maintenance engineer. He fixed ventilation systems, repaired hull breaches, and ensured the station ran smoothly. The children who visited on field trips never knew that their protector walked among them, scarred by battles in dimensions they couldn't perceive, forever watching for the next threat that might emerge from beyond reality itself. But the universe knew. And somewhere in dimensions beyond human comprehension, entities that had fed on civilizations for eons added a new entry to their eternal memories. Avoid Earth. The humans have learned to weaponize love itself. The story of Marcus Chen became legend, but he remained what he had always been. A maintenance engineer, a protector, a human who had faced down a god and won, not through strength or power, but through the simple, impossible refusal to let children come to harm. And in the depths of space, where ancient beings older than stars made their plans, Earth was quietly removed from all hunting grounds. The message was clear across every dimension. Humanity's scars spoke louder than words. They were proof that even gods could learn fear,